Welcome, everybody, to episode 18 of Black and Gold Weekly in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. I am your host, John, and it's just me this week, but we still have a great show coming up for you. Lots to talk about in the world of the Boston Bruins, including looking back on the past week, looking ahead at the upcoming week for the team, and talking a lot about the playoff race going on in the East Division right now and how the Bruins trade deadline additions are benefiting and improving this team. So without further ado, we'll get into things here. But first, I do want to thank everyone at Black and Gold Productions, including Mark Allred and the entire team there, for all of their support. This show would not be happening without them. This show is in partnership with BNG Productions, and they are the reason that this exists. So a huge thank you to them for all of the support. I also want to mention some links down in the description of the video. If you are in the market for Boston Bruins gear, NHL gear, no matter whatever team you want, or NCAA college gear, there are links in the description of this video and every episode. 3 separate links that can bring you to those things. There's a large array of products, whether it's hats, shirts, hoodies, jerseys, sweatpants, accessories, mugs, all different kinds of stuff. So if you're in the market for any of those things, any sort of apparel or gear involving the Boston Bruins, that would be the top link. Any NHL team, that would be the second link, or an NCAA college team, that would be the third link. Those are all in the description, and it would really be very much appreciated if you could click those links and check that stuff out. Without further ado, it's time to get into it here, and we are going to start by looking at the past week of games for the Boston Bruins and take a look at how they've been doing here. So if we go back to last Thursday, which was the last day that I recorded an episode, that night they played the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo and picked up a big 5-1 win over the Sabres that night. Obviously, a really good showing for the Bruins, and a game that they pretty much had control of the entire way, and it was a really solid showing there for Boston, in a game that they absolutely should win against a team like Buffalo, who obviously eliminated from playoff contention and very beatable. Bruins got the job done on Thursday night, and that is something that they absolutely needed to do with the current playoff race going on, and they were able to do it. Then they played again on Friday, and yeah, things didn't go quite so well on Friday. A back-to-back set at Buffalo. Actually, it was the third of 3 games, but the second of a back-to-back. And they took a 6-4 loss to the Buffalo Sabres on last Friday night. And I fortunately did not watch this game. I actually had my other show going on, Off the Wall Hockey Show, so I did not actually see this game, and I am very glad that I did not see this game, because I probably would have been throwing things across the room. They were down big. They attempted a third period comeback. Obviously, they came up a little bit short, but this was not a good game for the Boston Bruins, and this was not the kind of showing that they needed against a team that they should easily be beating if they're going to make the playoffs. And it was one of those, again, really frustrating scores where you look at this Bruins team and you know how good they can play when they're playing well, and then they have games like this, and you're just like, oh my God, what is going on? Why? And to give up 6 goals to the Sabres is obviously not very good. To lose to the Buffalo Sabres when you're in the midst of a very tight playoff race, also obviously not very good. And it's one of those games that's really frustrating. It also snapped a 6-game winning streak for the Bruins, so they had a chance to make it 7 in a row that night, and they were not able to do it against the worst team in the league in Buffalo. So that was a really bad loss and a frustrating loss. Speaking of frustrating, then we go to Sunday's game on the 25th against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this was an afternoon game on NBC. I streamed the game on my other channel. I had watched the whole thing, obviously, and this was another very frustrating game as a Boston Bruins fan. They lost 1-0 to the Penguins. So they could not buy a goal. Honestly, should have been a much wider margin on the scoreboard than just 1-0. Jeremy Swayman played absolutely out of his mind in this game and was absolutely phenomenal in net. But Boston could not get anything going offensively. They couldn't really control the puck at all. They were a step slow all game long. And it was, again, one of those really, really frustrating games where you're watching it and you know that the team can be better than how they're playing. And they're just not playing at the level that they should be. And I don't know how you don't get up for a Sunday afternoon national televised game against one of your main rivals and opponents in the East Division this year, in the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you can't even muster a goal. Are you kidding me? And it's not that they didn't score. Well, that's frustrating, obviously, but it's not that they didn't score. It's that they got completely outplayed that entire game. They were losing puck battles all over the ice. They were slow all over the ice. They could not win a race to a loose puck. Pittsburgh just outplayed them in every facet of the game. They're extremely lucky that it was only 1-0 because it easily could have been a 4 or 5-0 win for the Penguins. That would have been an absolute blowout. And honestly, watching the game, it probably should have been a blowout because Boston was not ready to play in that game, never got it together in that game. And Pittsburgh really took it to them. The only reason it was a 1-goal game was because of Jeremy Swayman, and he was absolutely phenomenal in goal. And I think that deserves to be pointed out because he continues to play spectacularly for Boston. Even in the games that he's not winning, like that one, he played really, really well. So Swayman keeps it close, but the Bruins have no offense whatsoever, and they get shut out 1-0 on Sunday afternoon. Then they come back on Tuesday and they make up for it. 3-1 win over the Penguins at Pittsburgh on Tuesday night. This was a must-win game. It obviously mathematically wasn't or anything, but this was a must-win game. They could not afford to drop both games to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they didn't. They came out on Tuesday. They got the job done. They won the game 3-1. They played a heck of a lot better than they did on Sunday. A significantly improved performance for the Bruins, and they picked up a huge win against a very tough team in Pittsburgh, and that is how they closed out this past week of games. Obviously, they were on the road the entire time, and actually they are back home tonight. I'm recording this on Thursday, so that game will have happened already by the time all of you watching see this, but they're back home on Thursday, but they were on a long road trip before tonight's game against the Sabres. So they were at Buffalo for 3 and then at Pittsburgh for 2. So it'll be nice to see the Bruins get back on home ice. Obviously, over their past 4 games, they were 2-2, and they were able to get 4 out of the possible 8 points. Would have liked another win there, especially, the Buffalo game. You really got to win that. You really can't afford to be losing to Buffalo at this point in the year. The Pittsburgh loss, you figured they were going to probably lose one of them, so as frustrating of a game as it was, can't be too upset that they split with the Penguins, but I would have liked to have seen them win 3 out of 4. They were able to win 2 out of the 4, but again, the Rangers are still hanging around. They're right there, and Boston's playoff spot is not safe yet. They've still got to win some big games down the stretch if they're going to secure that playoff spot. So that was the past week for the Boston Bruins. Last Thursday, they beat Buffalo 5-1. Friday, they took a bad 6-4 loss to the Sabres. Sunday, they lost a very frustrating 1-0 game to the Penguins, but then they bounced back on Tuesday and beat Pittsburgh 3-1. So that was the past week. Now we're going to move on. We got some more things to talk about. I want to talk a lot about the playoff race going on in the East right now, as well as look at how the trade deadline additions now for the Bruins, that they've got a pretty good number of games under their belt, have significantly made this team better, and how a lot these guys are playing really, really well with Boston. So that will be coming up. All right, everyone. So there is a huge, tight awesome playoff race going on in the East Division right now that the Boston Bruins are right in the thick of. I want to take a look at that right now as we pull up the standings in the East and take a look here. Obviously, Washington and Pittsburgh have been going back and forth at the top of the division. They are sitting at 68 and 67 points respectively, and I think it's pretty safe to say that those are the two teams that are going to finish 1-2 in the division this year, most likely. We just don't know which order. However, 3, 4, and 5, 2 playoff spots, 3 teams going for those 2 spots between the New York Islanders, the Boston Bruins, and the New York Rangers. And this has been becoming one heck of a battle. It has been for the last couple of weeks, but it's really getting down to the wire here as there's less than 10 games remaining for everybody now. And the Rangers actually down to just 6 games remaining. The New York Islanders currently sit in 3rd place in the East Division with 63 points through 49 games. Boston is 1 point behind them with 62, but have 1 game in hand, having only played 48 games. The Rangers come in 5th place right now, 4 points out of a playoff spot with 58 points, and Boston has 2 games in hand over the New York Rangers. So, obviously, things are very, very tight between the number 3, 4, and 5 teams right now. However, the games in hand certainly do favor the Bruins, as Boston has a game in hand over the Islanders and 2 games in hand over the Rangers. This is going to be a lot of fun. The Bruins have 2 games left against the New York Rangers. So those head-to-head matchups are obviously going to be huge for the playoff race. And they have 1 game remaining against the Islanders as well, towards the end of the season. So, obviously, any sort of head-to-head matchups between these teams are massive. The Islanders and Rangers are actually playing each other on Thursday and Saturday this week, so those are massive games as well. Obviously, not Bruins games, but as far as this whole playoff race is going, those games are absolutely massive. Anytime any of these 3 teams play each other, it could be a playoff spot on the line. And the Rangers are really pushing hard. They've been playing well lately. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They've won 3 in a row. They are pushing hard to try and get into that 4th playoff spot. The Bruins have been playing well. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. Obviously, the loss to Buffalo last Friday hurts, but they've still been playing really well overall. The Islanders have not. They are just 4-5-1 in their last 10, and they've lost 2 games in a row. And this is something where 2 weeks ago, saying that the Islanders could potentially drop out of a playoff spot would have gotten you a lot of really weird looks and people calling you dumb. And now all of a sudden, the Islanders could drop out of a playoff spot. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's likely to happen. They do have a 5-point cushion right now over the Rangers, but the Bruins have a legitimate shot of passing the Islanders for 3rd place. It's only 1 point separating them, and the Bruins have the game in hand. The Rangers are only 5 points back, and depending on how these head-to-head matchups go, could potentially knock the Islanders out of the playoffs if they win both of these head-to-head games coming up Thursday and Saturday. If the Rangers win both of those games, they would cut it to a 1-point lead for the New York Islanders. Now, the Isles would have a game in hand still, but then depending on how the rest of the season after that goes, the Rangers could potentially still knock the Islanders out of the playoffs. Again, I don't think that that's necessarily likely. I do think the Islanders make it, but it's possible. And 2 weeks ago, if you said that, you would have gotten weird looks. So that shows how fast things can change in the NHL, especially when you have one team on a good winning streak and another team that's been struggling. Things can change in the standings really, really fast. It also goes to show how incredibly tight the race in the East is for this 4th playoff spot. So, getting back here to the Bruins, obviously they have a chance to finish in 3rd, only 1 point back with a game in hand. They're in 4th right now. There's a very good chance that they just stay right there in 4th. I don't think Boston's going to get knocked out of a playoff spot. They've been playing too well recently. Obviously, they've won 7 out of their last 10. It's possible, but I think it would take a really bad collapse from the Bruins for them to drop all the way out of the playoffs. That would include them losing the head-to-head games to the Rangers. That would include them maybe losing to Buffalo again, losing to New Jersey. They are playing at the beginning of next week, Monday and Tuesday. The Bruins would have to take some really, really bad losses if they're going to lose this playoff spot. So again, I fully expect the Boston Bruins to make the playoffs. Absolutely, fully expect the Bruins to make the playoffs. I think it's just a matter of where do they finish, 3rd or 4th. I think there's a very real possibility of them moving up and taking 3rd now, especially with how poorly the Islanders have been playing recently. But the Islanders and Rangers are playing each other in a 2-game set Thursday and Saturday. So how that 2-game set goes is going to have a huge effect on this playoff race. And then next week when the Bruins play the Rangers, that's going to have a huge effect on this playoff race as well, and could potentially end the playoff race if Boston wins both of those games. All of a sudden the Rangers might be pushed out and kind of their season ends at that point if the Bruins win both games. So there's still some huge matchups for all 3 of these teams on the table. There's some huge matchups for these teams against each other left this season. And it's going to be really, really fun to watch out and see how it goes. The Rangers would be in a playoff spot in any other division in the NHL. They have 58 points. They have a plus 35 goal differential. Can you imagine not making the playoffs with a plus 35 goal differential? That might just be what happens to the New York Rangers. And, like I said, if they're in any other division, they are in a playoff spot right now with 58 points. But unfortunately for them, they're in the East, which I think is very obviously the best division in the NHL this year. And they are right now on the outside looking in because every other team in that division ahead of them has over 60 points. So it's going to be a race. It's going to be a battle. There are some huge games coming up for all of these teams in playoff contention in the East Division, not only for the 4th and final playoff spot, but at the top of the division, the Capitals and Penguins have a 2-game set against each other Thursday and Saturday as well. So while the Islanders are playing the Rangers, the Capitals are playing the Penguins, and that could be the little mini series that decides who finishes first and who finishes second in the division this year, as those 2 teams battle it out at the top. So obviously, like I said, there's some great hockey going on. There's a really tight race right now in the East, and these standings are fun to check every day because they are constantly changing. They are constantly getting closer, and the Rangers will not go away. They are fighting very hard for a playoff spot. Boston fighting hard for a playoff spot. The Islanders trying not to blow their playoff spot. They've basically been in a postseason position all season long. For them to drop out at the end would be absolutely devastating for the Islanders. Again, I don't expect that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a very real possibility with the Bruins and Rangers both just kind of nipping at their heels here. You definitely can't say that they're safe. And the Bruins aren't safe either. As much as I fully expect the Boston Bruins to make the playoffs, they're not safe yet. They have not won enough games to be safe, and the Rangers are pushing hard. Obviously, they're trying to take one of these final spots from either the Bruins or the Islanders. So, I just wanted to take a look at the East Division here and show you guys just how close it is for this final playoff spot. These 3, 4, 5 teams are all stacking up, just trying to secure a playoff position. The Flyers are out of it at this point. I don't think they've mathematically been eliminated, but the Flyers are out of it at this point. And then the Devils and Sabres have been mathematically eliminated. Obviously, they're not even close to being in the playoffs. So yeah, that means that the Bruins have some big games that they need to win at the last few weeks of this season, including games against the Rangers, against a game against the Islanders, and then 2 very, very winnable series against the Devils and the Sabres that they have to win. They have to take both games against those two teams and make sure that they lock themselves into the playoffs. But the East is very, very tight, as you can see, and Boston has their work cut out for them here the rest of the year. They've got to win the games that they're supposed to win, because nothing is guaranteed yet as far as the playoffs are concerned. So now I want to take a look at some of the trade deadline additions for the Boston Bruins, how they've been playing, and how much they've made this team better offensively since coming into the lineup. So we will get right into that next. So, as of me recording this, the Boston Bruins have played 9 games since the 2021 trade deadline, and Taylor Hall, Mike Riley, and Curtis Lazar have all had significant impacts on the Boston Bruins lineup. I think they've all played very, very well in their respective roles, and they've certainly made the Boston Bruins a better team since coming into the lineup compared to how the Bruins were playing before the trade deadline and before making these moves. So what I've done here is I've taken the Bruins and looked at their statistics over the past 9 games since the trade deadline. I just want to take a look here at how Boston has been doing and how these new guys have been affecting the team and making them better. So obviously, Taylor Hall was the big addition at the deadline. He was the marquee name that came into the Bruins lineup. And in those 9 games since coming to Boston, Hall has 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points, and is +8 in those 9 games, playing on the left side with David Krejci and Craig Smith on the right side. Hall's been absolutely awesome. Hall has been absolutely awesome since coming into the lineup. Again, this was a move that I was skeptical of. I was skeptical of it really changing things for the Bruins. That's how I'll put it. I in no way did not like the move because the Bruins gave up so little. It was 100% a massive win for Boston from the start. Even if Hall didn't do anything, they gave up so little that it was worth the try. I was skeptical about it drastically changing things for the Bruins and making them significantly better. And I was skeptical of how Hall would play after, having such an awful season with the Sabres for the first 3 quarters of the year. Hall has been absolutely awesome. He's played great. His speed, his drive, his ability to use his size to kind of just drive up the wall and then take it to the net has been absolutely awesome to watch. He's meshed extremely well with David Krejci, and we're going to talk about his effect on David Krejci's game in just a little bit. That whole line, that new second line of Smith, Hall, and Krejci has been phenomenal since they've been put together, and I really can't say enough good things about how Taylor Hall's played as a Boston Bruin so far. Again, my skepticism comes to, does it change the outcome of the season? Is it going to be enough to take the Bruins from being a first or second round exit like they've been or like they were last year and push them to the point where they're going on a deep run and have legitimate Stanley Cup potential? That, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how they do in the playoffs. What I will say, though, and that is completely undeniable, is that Taylor Hall has played extremely well for the Boston Bruins. And he's got 7 points in 9 games and is +8 to show for it. Hall has also made David Krejci significantly better. David Krejci now, with Taylor Hall on his line in the past 9 games, all of a sudden has been scoring goals, which we were not seeing really any goal scoring from him before the trade deadline. He has 5 goals and 4 assists for 9 points since the Taylor Hall deal and is also +8. And he has played absolutely phenomenally as well since getting Hall on his left side. And again, that trade has not only been beneficial because Taylor Hall has played well, but David Krejci has played significantly better since Hall's come here. And that's been a big, big boost for the Boston Bruins as well. Craig Smith, the guy on the right side of that line, has been fantastic too. in those 9 games. He has 5 points and is also +8. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists. And his game, he's just been more comfortable, more noticeable, more impactful since Taylor Hall has come into the Boston Bruins lineup. So bringing Hall in has significantly made the Bruins a better team offensively. The guys that he's playing with are playing significantly better with him in the lineup than they were before he was in the lineup in a Boston Bruin. And also, the top line is dominating still, but in a way where all the pressure is not on them. You know, Marchand and Pastrnak lead the team with 10 points apiece in the past 9 games. Bergeron has 6 points, but is +12 and is playing absolutely phenomenal defensive hockey. May not be getting on the score sheet as much as Marchand and Pasta, but Bergeron is still playing absolutely great. And that top line now has a little bit of pressure off of them because the Krejci line is playing so well. And the Krejci line playing so as well as they are is allowing this top line to just kind of play their game and not have to worry about doing everything and not have to worry about being the only guys scoring and shouldering that load the way that they were, to where now they can just go out and be the top line and they can go out and be the best line in hockey, which they are. And they're letting that second line shoulder some of the weight as well, and the second line is putting up the points and doing it. And I think we all want to see more from the third and fourth lines offensively. And there's definitely no doubt that if the Bruins are going to go far in the playoffs, they need to get a third line scoring. And they're not getting much from their third line right now. But the top 2 lines are going, and that's a huge boost for the Boston Bruins, because before the trade deadline, it was really only one line going, and the Bruins were completely a one-line team. And you really can't say that now as the second line has come to life. And that is absolutely massive for Boston. So the Taylor Hall deal is working out really well. He has played great, and he's making his teammates around him better as well. So it's really a win-win for the Boston Bruins. The other guy that came over as a part of that Taylor Hall deal was Curtis Lazar, who is a bottom 6, really a fourth liner, but you can play him on the third line if you're down guys or really need to. But he's really a fourth line guy. He's got a goal and 2 assists in the 9 games since coming over to Boston. 3 points. Obviously, he's never a guy that's going to put up big numbers offensively, but he is the kind of player that the Boston Bruins love to have in their bottom 6. He's high energy. He's physical. He's a high effort player. And exactly the kind of guy that you want in your lineup and on the fourth line. And I said this when he was announced as part of the trade, that Curtis Lazar is an upgrade to the fourth line over pretty much everybody that the Bruins had been playing on the fourth line. And I absolutely stand by that. I think he's better than Sean Corrali. I think he's better than Chris Wagner. He's certainly better than Kuhlman or Bleed or any of those guys that honestly belong in the AHL that were playing up in Boston because of, you know, they needed guys to fill the lineup spots. Lazar's an upgrade over all of them. I think he brings a lot to the fourth line, and I'm really glad that the Bruins had made him a part of this deal. I think, you know, he's really fit in well in their bottom 6, and he's going to be an important player come playoff time, where you really need to have 4 lines that you can roll and play in key situations, and he is going to make the Boston Bruins better in the playoffs. And he's also, I think, made Sean Corrali and Chris Wagner better. Corrali and Wagner were both having horrendous seasons up until the trade deadline. And I think while they still, you know, they're not jumping off the screen as having great seasons still, they've played a lot better since Lazar's come to the team. I think Corrali has been better over the last 9 games, and Chris Wagner certainly has been improved over the last few games compared to how he was playing earlier in the season. So, again, this is another case of not only has Lazar come in and played well himself, but he's made his line mates better too, just as Taylor Hall has done on the second line. And again, that is a huge boost for the Boston Bruins. and something that they certainly needed, an improvement that they needed when bringing these guys in. And finally, the last guy I want to talk about, obviously, is Mike Riley, who is a defenseman brought in from the Ottawa Senators at the deadline. He has 5 assists in 9 games and is +5 for Boston since coming here. And I'll tell you what, Mike Riley, I said this when the deal was made, that this was a super underrated move and that this was exactly the kind of defenseman that the Bruins needed to add to their decor. And he has not disappointed at all. He's quarterbacking the power play. He's making great passes. He's a good skater. He's been solid defensively. He certainly hasn't really been an issue in the defensive zone at all. He's playing over 21 minutes a game for the Boston Bruins, and he has been exactly the kind of defenseman that the Boston Bruins needed to bring into this lineup. They needed somebody that could put up points, somebody that could drive some offense from the back end, and Riley's been doing it with his 5 assists and his great passing, and his ability to make good stretch passes, his ability to quarterback the power play, his ability to skate with the puck and get back defensively because of his skating. Riley has been a really, really good addition to that left side that the Bruins definitely needed. And now that Grzelcyk is back healthy as well, you can have Grizz and Riley on the left side. And that knocks Lauzon and Zboril down into depth roles, which honestly is where they should have been the entire time. Neither of those guys is even close to a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. And that allows them to get bumped down the lineup back where they belong. And Riley has been a huge addition to the decor for the Boston Bruins. And come playoff time, hopefully when the Bruins are healthy and they have the full complement in their top 4 of McAvoy, Grzelcyk, Carlo, and Riley, that is going to be a pretty solid top 4 to head into the playoffs with if they can get everybody healthy. And then that allows Kevin Miller to be on the right side on the bottom pair. And then you have your pick of who you want on the left side, whether it's Clifton playing on the left side or whether you want Zboril or Lauzon in the lineup. The Bruins have good depth on D, and Riley makes that even better and solidifies their top 4, which allows the depth players to play depth roles where they belong rather than having to put Lauzon or Zboril up into your top 4 where quite frankly they don't belong at all. Even Connor Clifton, I mean, I love some Cliffy hockey, but he does not belong in the top 4 of a contending NHL team's decor. So I really like the depth that the addition of Riley has allowed the Bruins to have, and the way that Riley is played in his style of being a point-producing defenseman and somebody with a lot of offensive upside and potential who can drive play offensively. That is exactly what the Bruins needed because you weren't getting any of that from guys like Zboril or Lauzon, or even Clifton hasn't done a whole lot offensively this year. So you really needed another offensive-minded guy on the back end, and Riley has been that, and he's played awesome as well. So looking at the Bruins trade deadline and who they brought in, all 3 players that they've added to this lineup have been playing great for the Bruins since coming over. And that's a big, big reason why the Boston Bruins have been winning as many games as they have lately, and a huge reason why they are 7-2 since the trade deadline. And in those 9 games have really looked good in a majority of them. Obviously, some frustrating losses in there against Buffalo and Pittsburgh, but for the most part, they've played really, really well. And Taylor Hall has played great individually and made his teammates better. Curtis Lazar has played pretty well individually and has made the 4th line better. And Mike Riley has played very well individually and has made the decor as a whole significantly better. So all 3 guys have made this Bruins team better. They've all been really nice additions, and hopefully they can carry this level of play into the playoffs because, again, that's really what matters. This is all for naught if the Bruins get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. It doesn't mean anything if Boston doesn't do anything in the postseason. So, obviously, it's awesome to see them playing well now. and they've made the Bruins look a lot better, and they look good individually, and it's great to see and all of that. And I love seeing the Bruins do well. But they've got to continue this into the playoffs, and they have got to play this well in the postseason. Because if it all falls apart come May, this all doesn't mean a thing. And getting these guys were kind of pointless, and it's just it all means nothing if the Bruins are out in the first round of the playoffs, or even if they're out in the second round. If they don't come out of the East, again, it's another year of Bergeron, Marchand, Rask, and Krejci that's wasted, and that window is closing very, very quickly. So, again, super happy with the way that these guys have been playing. They've certainly made the Boston Bruins a better team. It needs to carry over into the playoffs. They have to play this well in the postseason. Otherwise, it's really not going to mean a whole lot, and it's all going to be for naught if they just get knocked out early in the playoffs. So, hopefully these guys are able to continue this level of play, because they have been awesome so far. So that now is going to bring us to our next segment, which I want to preview the week ahead for the Boston Bruins and look at their upcoming games and just kind of give a quick preview of that. And then we'll go into Bruins Bet of the Week to finish off the show. Those are both coming up. Okay, everybody, it is now time to look at the week ahead for the Boston Bruins. I am recording this on Thursday. They do play tonight, the 29th, at home against the Buffalo Sabres, their first game at home in a while. And obviously, this game will have happened by the time that this episode is out publicly for everyone to watch on Friday. So we'll know what happens with this game. But as of me recording this, we don't know what's happened with this game yet, so I'm going to preview it and just talk about it and what I think. Boston has to win this game. They cannot afford to lose any more games to the Buffalo Sabres or the New Jersey Devils, which we'll talk about that coming up. Boston's in a very, very tight playoff race right now, as we talked about earlier in this show, with the Rangers nipping at their heels, the Islanders right in front of them. Very, very tight race with 3 teams fighting for 2 spots. Boston cannot afford to lose bad games. They have got to win the games that they should win, and the Buffalo Sabres are certainly a team that the Boston Bruins should be beating. So I am fully expecting a Bruins win tonight against Buffalo. They have got to make sure that they get the job done in this one. There's really no excuse. They're on home ice. Yes, it's after a long road trip, and a lot of times that first home game after a road trip is a trap game. It just quite frankly can't be a trap game against a team like Buffalo. If they were playing Washington here, or if they were playing Pittsburgh here, or even the Islanders or Rangers, another like solid team, sure, maybe you don't win that one and you get it done on Saturday and split the series. But against a team like Buffalo, who's in last place, you cannot lose this game if you're the Boston Bruins. So, I don't think it's going to be necessarily an easy game. Buffalo has been playing better of late, as we've talked about the last few weeks, and they're definitely not just going to roll over and hand it to you. But the Bruins have to win this game. They've got to get the job done. Saturday, an afternoon game on May 1st, again at home against the Buffalo Sabres. And yet again, this is another game that the Bruins have to win. They have to win this game. You cannot be losing games to the Sabres in a playoff race like this. Like I said about the first one, you have to make sure that you get the wins against the teams that you should be beating. And if you can't do that, you are going to be in trouble, and there is a chance you could end up losing your playoff spot. So again, I am expecting the Bruins to win that game. They've got to get it done against Buffalo, and I would be very, very upset if they don't. That'd be a tough loss. Monday, next game is on Monday at New Jersey. They have a back-to-back set on Monday and Tuesday at the New Jersey Devils. Now, New Jersey has played the Bruins very, very tough this season. New Jersey is not playing well right now. They've actually been horrendous lately. They did win their last game, but they're 1-8-1 in their last 10, and yeah, they've not been good. They had a very, very long losing streak. I think it was a 9-game losing streak before they won their last one. So obviously, you would like to see the Bruins win both of these games against the Devils. However, the Devils have played the Bruins really, really hard this year, and they're certainly not guaranteed wins. And Boston obviously cannot afford to lose both of these games. They really should win both of these games. But if they split, I wouldn't be overly surprised. I would not be overly surprised if they split the New Jersey series. I would be very, very angry if they were to lose both, however, and they should win both, but again, with the way that they've played against the Devils this season, there's certainly no guarantees there. But I do expect both of those games to be very hard-fought games, tough games, and I'd love to see the Bruins come out and win those hard-fought games, but with the way that the Devils have been this season against Boston, again, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a split there. The Rangers, Thursday night. The Bruins come back home Thursday the 6th against the Rangers. And, well, let's just say this is a big game. I don't think there's much more I could say other than that this is a huge game, as the Rangers are the team right behind Boston in the standings, trying to take that 4th spot away from them. Head-to-head matchups are going to be absolutely massive, and they get their second to last one on Thursday night. Again, this is a massive, massive game. If the Rangers win this game, they could significantly cut into the Bruins' points lead ahead of them, depending on what goes on earlier in the week, obviously. Again, it's a week away. There's still a lot of games to be played before this one for both the Bruins and the Rangers. So the whole point situation and standing situation could be different by the time we get to next Thursday. But if it stays close like it is right now, this will be a massive game that could end up determining, well, not this singular game, but they also play on Saturday, the 8th, and that would, or Sunday the 9th. No, Saturday the 8th. And that could be a huge game, or that series could end up determining which of these two teams goes to the playoffs. So, obviously a massive one on Thursday against New York. I mean, the Rangers are fighting for their playoff lives, as are the Bruins. I expect that game to feel like a playoff game. I expect it to be almost a playoff game in just the way that it's played. And I think that that's going to be a really, really fun game to watch, and a really, really big game for both of those teams. And whoever wins that is going to be that much closer to a playoff spot in the East Division, which obviously both teams are fighting for. So the Bruins have 5 games this week, Thursday to Thursday. Obviously, that's a lot of hockey in a short period of time. But on Thursday, this Thursday, they have the Buffalo Sabres. On Saturday, they have Buffalo again. Monday and Tuesday, they have a set at New Jersey. And then they come back home Thursday to start a 2-game set against the New York Rangers. So this is a big, big week for the Boston Bruins. I'd really like to see them go 4-1. I think 4-1 is an acceptable record for this week. You know, if they drop one of these games somewhere along the way, it's not a huge deal. They've got to go 4-1. If they start getting to the point where they're only winning 3 or even 2 of these games, their playoff spot is in jeopardy. And they have very, very winnable games against Buffalo and New Jersey. So they really should win all of them. And obviously, if they go 5-0, that would be perfect. I think if they go 5-0 over these next 5 games, that pretty much would lock them into a playoff spot. So if they were to get 10 out of the next 10 points, I think that would pretty much guarantee them the playoffs at that point. So obviously that would be huge. But looking at this schedule, I am expecting the Boston Bruins to go at least 4-1 over these next 5 games. And anything less than that, I think, would be slightly disappointing. They've got to win at least 3 of these games. If they're only winning 2 of these games, again, like I said, their playoff spot is in jeopardy. So they've got to win at least 3. They should win 4, and obviously it would be perfect if they win all 5. But a big, big week coming up here for the Boston Bruins, and a lot of games against opponents that they should be beating. And that will bring us now to our final segment of the show. As usual, it is Bruins Bet of the Week. And, Yeah, I haven't done all that well with this season, and the ones that I've done, obviously, I've gotten a few right over the course of the year. I think I've gotten 3 right, but for the most part, it's not been great. And I got it wrong again last week. I had the Bruins beating the Sabres on Friday night last week, and that was the game they very unfortunately lost 6-4. So got it wrong last week. We'll try and get better, get back in the win column this week as far as Bruins Bet of the Week goes. My bet is under 5.5 on the Bruins afternoon game against Buffalo on Saturday, May 1st. Bruins and Sabres have played a lot of under games this season. However, their last 2 games both went over. I think we're going to get back to normal in this next set against the Sabres. And with Saturday being an afternoon game, which are usually kind of lower scoring, slow starting games to begin with, Bruins just played a 1-0 under game against Pittsburgh last weekend. I think that the Saturday afternoon game against Buffalo is going to be under 5.5 goals scored total. Again, I expect the Bruins to win that, but my bet of the week is that it will be under 5.5. I see that being like a 3-1 type game, maybe 4-1, something like that. But I don't think there's going to be too much scoring, especially with it being an afternoon game. And that's what I'm going with for this week. Obviously, I'm not super confident because I haven't gotten that many of these right this year, but that's what I'm going to go with for this week. So that is Bruins Bet of the Week, under 5.5 goals on Saturday against the Sabres. And that is going to do it for episode 18 of Black and Gold Weekly. Again, thank you guys all so much for watching. Really, really appreciate it. It was just me this week. But we still had a lot to talk about, and it was a fun show to do. So, again, a huge thank you to everybody at Black and Gold Productions. This show is in partnership with BNG Productions and would not be happening without them. So thank you to Mark and everybody there for all of the support. I want to mention the links down in the description one last time. Boston Bruins gear is the top link. NHL gear is the second link. And NCAA college gear is the third link. If you're in the market for any of those things, please check out the links in the description. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And that is going to bring us to the end of episode 18 here. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Next week, I'll be back with episode 19. And that one obviously is going to be a lot of fun as we'll have a whole new week of Boston Bruins hockey to talk about. But until then, have a great week, guys, and talk to you soon. Thank you so much.